So yeah, Peter, thanks for for having me on the program here. This has been this is always an honor to be showing up, and I'm really glad listening to this previously that I don't teach a lot of seniors, because that's usually I end up writing maybe 2 or 3 a year, and it really just for me it takes a long time. But with something like this, I'm going to definitely keep that in mind next time somebody asks me. And really, when it comes, there's one thing that writing recommendations, I also hate grading. That's one of those things. I remember the smartest student that I ever taught. When he was graduating, he told me, he said, "Richie, you're a great lecturer. You're an average teacher." And at first I was like, okay, but then it kind of sank in, and he wasn't really telling me anything I didn't already know, because when he thinks about somebody being a great teacher, this is somebody who gets the feedback back to you, somebody who has this super organized classroom. This is something that just wasn't one of my gifts. So when he said that, I said, you know what, I'm going to take the compliment. And I've always known that there are teachers who have it together, more than I do. I've got, something, not only do I really just hate grading, but, any of my students will tell you I've got something of an undiagnosed ADHD. I've got one of these windows that looks out into the lawn, and anytime like somebody is riding the lawnmower or the gator, I'm just staring at it, and all of a sudden there's like this 5-second interruption in the class, and it doesn't translate to me being able to give a lot of timely feedback. So when I think about some of the maxims I bring into these things, I think it's important for students to have a lot of practice. It's important that they receive timely feedback. And it's very difficult for a human being as a teacher to do both, especially when that human being is me. And so, I think that students need to write often. And what I've done in the past is I typically do a sort of portfolio assessment, which that was one of those things. I think I'm a little older than Bruno. When I was going through, my alternate certification, this portfolio assessment where the student gets to choose what's graded. They do a number of things, and, they produce a number of pieces of writing. They look at it and they say, I want you to grade this. And so that has been something typically I write, I grade 1 DBQ and 1 LEQ per quarter, which it's good for students to be able to have that additional practice. That's an advantage. But the downside is that students don't get feedback on everything they write. But then again, one of the things that I said a long time ago, when I was having a conversation with some other teachers, that we don't want to limit students' opportunities to practice by what we can personally grade. So I'm really excited about this class companion program. I played around with it a little bit, and I believe that it's going to be a big time saver, and also could be something, when I think about these portfolio assessments that I do, having the student, if they want to plug their essay into Class Companion or Chat GPT or wherever they want to go, and have that AI help them figure out which one of those essays is better. As Avery was saying, this AI has a special gift for giving feedback. And so now maybe I would give better feedback. Maybe I would give more comprehensive feedback. But the idea that I'm going to be able to give the amount of feedback in the timely manner that this is able to do, I don't think it's going to, it's going to happen. It certainly hasn't happened in my classroom up to now. And so, automation, so far, it has helped me a lot. I remember when I started teaching APUSH in 2008, that for several years we would peer grade. I think it's really important, if I'm going to give students readings, at least about 40 to 50% of the time there should be a quiz. And so we used to peer grade quizzes and that sort of thing. Now, of course, Google Classroom. Now, Google just grades those quizzes. They're right there. And so I can give quizzes without taking that class time to peer grade them. So I think that, when we look at something like Class Companion, it's going to play a very similar role of, giving some of this feedback, because I don't know about anybody else here. I feel like scoring SAQs is a bit beneath me. Like when it comes to scoring a DBQ or an LEQ, this is a complex task. This is something that I feel, okay, this is something that I'm giving some expert advice here. But then when you look at an SAQ, this is just, look, that you can train this thing to recognize, was there a piece of specific evidence? Was there a clear claim? Is the student doing this? And so SAQs, they don't really get, in the past, I haven't really given them a lot of emphasis in my class, because I feel like, hey, if I'm going to assign a bunch of these, I'm going to have to grade a good many of them. And so now that's going to be, I think, the biggest thing that I'm going to be using, Class Companion for this year. I'll admit that I'm still a bit skeptical about the ability of AI to grade essays, especially the way that I want students to write. But then again, I think when we go a few years from now, it's going to be catching up. So as far as that goes, I mean, my plan for this coming up year is really to kind of lean into the AI, especially when it comes to SAQ grading, and also giving students a chance to receive some sort of feedback on every essay. And so let's say that they wrote 2 LEQs during the quarter, and they want to figure out, okay, which one is better? Let's put them both in there. Let's see which one is getting a higher rating. And on one hand, they know which one, they've got an idea, maybe had some help. A lot of times students know which one was better. But the nice thing is, whereas I'll give my feedback on one of them, they at least receive some kind of feedback on the other one. And of course, we can kind of tweak that. There are nice, things that you can go and you can ask the teacher for feedback. I think that Class Companion, like on the trajectory that it's on, I think that by August, it's going to be something that's going to be extremely useful in classrooms. Not that it's not already, but just the pace of the building of this thing, I think give these people, give Avery and her team 3 more months. I think it's going to look really good. So with that, I think that that's the biggest thing, that this technology is still kind of new. I don't think it's going to revolutionize my classroom right now. And especially one of the things, and I don't know if some teachers are in the same boat as well, AI is not going to be a big disruptor in my classroom. I've always got, one of my maxims has been, as I've taught, I need to write all these down one day, but if I'm not watching the student do it, the student's probably cheating. Now, as somebody said earlier, some will cheat, some won't. But when it comes to, anything that they would write, an SAQ, a DBQ, an LEQ, I've always had them write those in class. And if I ever have given something take home, it's kind of like that 2020 exam when the College Board said, okay, we're going to let this be open notes. Well, they kind of had to. I mean, students were obviously going to use things like this. So as far as that goes, I think that this is going to work out really well to increase feedback, and and it will get better, and it will be part of tomorrow's classroom. One thing I was talking to Peter about, I think earlier, was when I started in 2008, 2009, I was the only teacher that was encouraging Wikipedia. In fact, my students would say, all my other teachers say not to use this, Richie. You're the only teacher who doesn't trash Wikipedia. And sure, it had problems. Sometimes you would be looking at looking something up on Wikipedia, and you're like, I didn't know he was and you realize somebody went in there and sabotaged the article, and that doesn't happen anymore. The thing is that I never hear students now say, Richie, you're the only teacher who doesn't trash Wikipedia, because I think we're getting teachers now who were using it as a reference tool on their way up. So I think that this is one of those things. I mean, my classroom is pretty old school in a lot of ways anyway. So, I'll look for ways to tweak, and I will be doing some things to bring this in as a feedback mechanism. And other than that, I think it'll be, business as usual. But I think that my students are going to get more feedback, and they're going to get more timely feedback, and this is going to be great. And I really appreciate what Avery and her team have put together here in order to save teachers a lot of effort coming forward.